Good afternoon, everybody. And how are you today? It's the Miz in the midday on a quiet day where fans are yearning for some sports. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it to them. You all know on my show, the mic is yours and it's not mine. The mic is yours. The show is yours. I know fans want to get into it. Fans are thirsty for the draft. It's still far away. But a lot of rumors, a lot of speculations, a lot of talent and prospects. And I wanted to just have fans come on and speak their minds about what they'd like to see for their team. And I'm going to bring on a special guest. This man does great content. You got to check out his channel. His videos are real. His voice is just so fitting. And his football mind and his videos are just very entertaining. And I know a lot of people have taken to him. This is a big man in the Giants content world. And that's Giant Opinion. And I'm going to put the link in the chat. I'm going to start out schmoozing with him a little. And we will take some calls a little bit later on. But I'd like to have this man on my show and give him the mic. One second here as I get this up. Call on in. Giants Opinion Sports. Again, check out this man's channel. Sub up to him if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure we all are. This guy makes great videos, content on prospects coming out of college and into the draft each year. And I think today he has a video out on the secondary free agents out there. The free agency will be a little tough on us as the Giants are a little strapped for money this year. And like I've been saying, if we could go out and get one free agent, if we could get one big free agent, just one big one, I'd go after offensive linemen. There's a few of them out there. And I did a video the other day on Bosman, starting center and also plays guard for the Ravens, has emerged as one of the better centers in the league. He's a free agent. He would cost some money, but boy, would he be a huge piece to this O-line. Let's bring my man in. All right, Giant Opinion Sports. My brother, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Miz?
I'm good. Thank you for joining me on my show today. I'm excited to have you. I know you popped in a new video just before the show, and I got to see it. And a lot of us are very entertained by your video each day, to be honest. How you doing today? I know the couple of things that you're big on. You and I actually see eye to eye. One of the bigger reasons I wanted to bring you on. And I wanted to just touch on, we know the draft is coming. I know free agency is coming. I'm not expect us to be the biggest free agent, go-getters out there. I know we're going to drop a lot of players. But my big thing for 2 years, as anyone has known me on YouTube, knows that I've been harping on the O-line, and the Giants haven't heard me. But I think with this new regime, we're about to go there. So what do you think?
I mean, it's been such a problem for the last decade. It hasn't like Jerry Reese didn't try and fix some problems and draft some people, bring some people, or get them in. It just seems like everybody that we've brought in just hasn't worked out. And even Kevin Zeitler, a big name, a good player, comes in and he just underperforms. Maybe it's because he's just surrounded by junk around him, but it's just unbelievable how long this has gone on, and it's been the number one glaring problem for so long. So yeah, I mean, people are going to say, oh no, Giants don't have money. Listen, we have a lot of money next year. If Joe Shane wants to put his fingerprint on his team right now, he could easily go out and sign a couple offensive linemen. You can give big signing bonuses. You could push your contract to next year when we got almost $100 million. If that's the route he wants to go. But I think people are really sleeping on free agency when I would not be surprised if there's a couple big moves that makes everybody go, wow. because he also is going to free up a lot of space here too. It's reported 40 million. We'll see how that works out. I think 12 or 14 has to be designated for the draft. But yeah, I mean, I really do think there's at least one guard. I think you're going to get in here, at least one big guard or a center, like you said, Bozeman. I've seen he's getting spot tracks saying he can get 8 or 9 million. I think you can sign, just give him a monster signing bonus. And I think the first year, what's it like? You probably get him for like a 2-3 million cap hit. If you have 40 million, you're looking at 26. What's a couple million? I mean, that's really nothing. So,
Thank you, Steve. What's going on, Big Slay? See a couple of you guys in the chat. Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that if we could, I don't even know if we're going to free up 40 million, to be honest. But I think that if we can get one big fish, if we could just get one big fish. I know we could get a few of these second, third level guys to fill in spots, but if we could get one big fish that will cost us a 10 million, maybe. I did a video on Bosman from the Ravens. There's a couple other offensive linemen out there. I believe a guy on the Bears, and
James Daniels.
Yeah, I would say one. If we get one guy, we have to get a lineman. We have to get a real solid, strong lineman. So you get one big lineman in free agency, and then you go into the draft with the 2 picks in the first round. I don't know whatever they're gonna do with it, but I've said this and I'll keep on saying it. You can't come out of this. You can't come out of these top 2 rounds without at least one. I want 2, but at least one. Yep. Real solid, I mean, big prospect offensive lineman, So, people always are going to say, oh, you could get your lineman. Look at this team, Buffalo. They got all their linemen in the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th rounds. Listen, man, we've been doing that. And the Giants' O-line is in such bad shape that we have to go get top-level prospects if you want to fix this. I'm not expecting to fix it to the point where we're going to go on a Super Bowl run next year. But you have to start somewhere. Last year, we neglected the line, and you got to look at what might have been one of the worst products in football in the last 10 years. So,
well, look what we've done with Daniel Jones. I mean, whatever you think of the kid, we've basically bruised and battered this kid. We got one more year with him. I mean, if he's gone, you're talking about bringing another young quarterback in here. And we cannot repeat this, have the same kind of offensive line issues with another quarterback. We just can't keep going through this cycle. I don't want to become the Cleveland Browns here in the future. Next kid that comes in, give him the best chance possible. And I guess some people, they get aggravated, like, oh, well, you don't need an all-pro first round at every position. No, but you have a much better chance of hitting them the earlier you take them. And right now, we're not a good team. Now's the time to grab them. Grab them up. I want to tackle. Like one of the first 5 or 7, I want to tackle. Don't mess around. Just get it. You can find guards in later rounds. You can get them cheaper in free agency. Buffalo really did kind of just their offensive line still isn't great. Let's be honest over there. It's just kind of like a middle of the road, if that. And they've been kind of doing what Dave Gettleman, bringing in guys, trades, and free agency, and just stuffing, just trying things out. And they have a supreme talent in Josh Allen. They make it work with good scheme and all that. But yeah, we got to get a tackle one of them for pure and simple. Get one of them top 3 tackles: Cross, Akeem, Iquanu, or Neal. Neal is my dream. Neal will drop to 5. That'd be my dream if Kayvon ain't there. So
right. It's funny you say that because you have a lot of people out here that poo-pooing on Neal, they're like, they don't think he's as good as the other 2, he's overrated. Man, people couldn't be any more wrong, man. Neal is the best one of the 3. I don't even look at him because I don't think he's getting past 1 or 2. Honestly, I've been saying it all along. Don't change my mind. He's getting drafted 1 by the Jaguars unless they decide they want to go with an edge rusher. I would think they have to protect that quarterback. So,
yeah.
People believe he's people come up with these things. They hear these things on TV, all this nonsense. You hear a new smoke story every week. You hear crap every day. There's a new story. Listen, you got to be realistic, man. We're at 5. Yes, it would be a dream for Thibodeau to be there. I don't expect it at all. I would fall on the floor if he got past the Jets. And in my eyes, Thibodeau is probably the best player in this draft. I know a lot of people want to make cases for Hutchinson and all these other guys, but I'm sorry, I never came off of that either. He's the best talent in this draft. Talent. He's the best, to me, impact player in this draft. And if Thibault is there, it would be amazing. But he's probably not going to be there. So I'm thinking realistically, if Iquanu or Cross are probably the guys that might be there at 5, and we're not even sure that Iquanu will be there, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're drafting at 5, who would you, in a realistic view, not, I want this guy, I want that. We all have a guy we want. Realistically, who do you think would be there and you would draft?
Realistically, like bottom of the barrel, all the top guys are gone. Probably Charles Cross at 5. That's what you're probably looking at. If nobody wants to go quarterback, or maybe the Jets take a surprise cornerback or something, outside of that chance, yeah, probably Charles Cross. And then at 7, then you can start to have a whole different conversation. If the draft goes that route, and it just feels like whoever you pick at 7 is kind of going to be a little overwhelming. There's almost nobody worth that. You could say something like Stingley, but then you start factoring in injury concerns, and it's like, unless somebody like Hamilton drops there, to 7, then that makes you go, well, I can live with that. Karlaftis, you can live with that. It's just like a little too early. So yeah, if you're forced to take your tackle at 5, probably 7 is we're probably not gonna be satisfied with whoever we choose there, unless we can move back a few spots. Ideally, that would be nice.
I
don't
feel.
want to. Go ahead, buddy.
No, real quick.
I don't want
to. Joe Schoen definitely wants to trade 7 back. I just got that strong feeling from the way he's talking. But yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to trade that 5 pick. Like everybody's saying, we'll trade the 5 because you get the most value. No. Here's the thing. Carolina, they're invested in the quarterbacks they got over there. Could they draft a quarterback? Sure, but they need tackles even worse than we do. They need a tackle very bad. And I've heard people say, hey, well, if you want to fix this problem that way, have Carolina trade up. Well, then they're going to take your tackle probably. So just get your tackle at 5. Don't mess around. He's your guy. Don't take no chances. Just take your tackle at 5. Don't trade the 5th pick. Trade the 7th. Then there's all kinds of guys from 7 to 12 or wherever you want to trade back that you're going to feel good about your pick. But.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. If the Giants don't grab that, like I said, unless one of the 2 top edge rushers are there at 5, if you don't grab your tackle at 5, then you could say goodbye to him at 6. I'm almost sure of it, because I think Carolina's going to grab that tackle. You're the guy that you might have hoped to get at 7. And then you know what? We let another one pass by. When I say another one, it's because I will always go back to how I felt long before last year's draft, and the Giants allowed Parsons to slip. And I feel that was a big mistake. And it is what it is. And to make it worse, he's in the division with Dallas, so whatever. But I'd say 5 is the spot where we get our tackle, and whether it's Cross or Iquanu, whichever one the Giants did their homework on, I'll trust them on. And then I believe you trade back at 7, you get some picks, and you try to get a 1 next year. You set yourself up in case things didn't work with Jones this coming season. At least you're set up in next year's draft to go get the quarterback of your choice.
Right.
And I know
these quarterbacks are not good. These quarterbacks are not great this year.
No, I've gotten into it with people. People have gotten mad at me. They will see that Malik Willis is not the guy. I'm sorry. I know he's sexy and it's attractive. I get it. And that type of QB these days, I know. But I'm sorry. He's not Vic, who people want to try to think he might be. He's not one of these guys. I've watched his film. His footwork is terrible. And it's not really about that. He can become a good quarterback. I'm not saying the man can't be good. And you're looking at a 3-4 year project. And I just don't think Look, we don't have an O-line. So I think the
Right.
Giants better build the trenches right here, and maybe add an edge rusher, linebackers, whatever they have to do in those places to have a team ready for next year. So if you do need to go quarterback next year, at least he'll be walking into a solid foundation, not this shaky garbage that Jones has walked into and been stuck with for 3 years, So
Exactly. Yeah.
can't make the same mistake again. And I actually have a lot of confidence in this regime that they have a lot more they're standing on their feet and they understand their process of what they're doing. I have to give them credit for they may have not been totally the build in Buffalo, but they definitely assisted. And I like what I see up there. And I think they're going to do that here. But people are going to have to be patient. And I think that the Giants ownership is ready to step back and allow these guys the time to do what they got to do. They are definitely not going to look to switch coaches in 2 years again. So I know how you feel about Jones. Believe me, I have a Daniel Jones jersey, and I was a big supporter of his, and I still am. I hope they could build him a line so that we could see what he could do, and not that he ends up somewhere else and we have to watch him do what he could do somewhere else, because that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But
Well, the
build
thing
this
is, like,
guy
I'm
a
not a.
line and let Jones have a year, and if you see a direction, then just keep him past that. Go ahead.
Well,
I know
I,
how you
you're.
feel about Jones. Go ahead.
Well, I like his skill set. I
Just
like the
one second.
kid.
Sorry. What's up, Doug Rush? I know you're new, first time. Thank you for coming on. I met this guy on Twitter. Appreciate your support. What's going on, Logan? I'm gonna have guys calling in a little while. Right now, I'm just we're schmoozing here with Opinion Sports. Sub up to Opinion Sports. He has a great channel. I tell you right now, some of the best videos on YouTube. People look forward to it daily. The man knows his prospects. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I see the attractive thing about Daniel Jones, and I do think he's a hardworking kid. He puts in the time. From all reports, he's the hardest working kid in the building. I understand the issues he has. We've seen little gradual improvements. We just haven't seen the production on the field. All the other stuff, the team, all that stuff aside, I'm not going to go down this whole thing with excuses and all this stuff. Just I see what Dave Gettleman saw and what Pat Shermer saw. I'm not saying right now I think it's going to work out because the odds are against them because of the situation it is. So it's going to depend. I mean, what kind of evaluation can we get? I've always been like I want a fair evaluation. Some people say, "Oh, well, that's just going to lead to wanting another fifth year." No, this is the last year. If it's not fair for Daniel Jones, I still want to move on to another quarterback. So just to clear the air, because I get people that get mad at me because there's some people who are done with him. But
No,
I mean,
I heard you get into it with some people, and you're taking it a little personal, like you're Daniel Jones's cousin or brother. I get what's going on, but listen,
no,
let me tell you something. Stand by your belief. So if you believe Jones is the guy, and there are a lot of people out there that do, stand by that. Don't back off of it just because
well,
people are
I've
fed up
never
with
been.
Jones. That's
Well,
not your problem.
Miz, I've never been like he's a franchise quarterback. I've always said I like what I see. I'm attracted to what he could be. I mean, look at that Washington game week 2. You've seen it with his legs and through the air. I mean, you see flashes of it, and then it's just you get frustrated because he does dumb stuff. And then you get frustrated because there's games where the O line collapse and the team collapse. It's all around frustrating. And I think that's where every Giants fan is at some level, whether you're in or out. I just frustrated. And it's why should I come on here? People get mad at me because I don't come on here and bash Daniel Jones. Why should I? We got one more year. I mean, why should I bash him? The kid's been put in a horrible situation. Whatever,
Right.
what's his fault, his side. Why bash him? He's the quarterback of the New York Giants. I'm going to support him. I supported Phil Simms. I supported Kent Graham. Until he's gone, I'm going to support him. I'm going to pull for him because if Daniel Jones does good, my team's going to do good, and we're going to win games, and we're going to feel good about, well, at least feel better than what we have been. So he's got one last year. I know I'm not going to be the guy who tears into him. Does he have
No.
problems? Yeah. I mean, it's just I think a lot of people start looking around to other teams. They see these other quarterbacks second year that just transition in and they're killing it in the NFL. That's not everybody. Everybody develops at a different rate. Everybody has different situations surrounding them. So many of these guys that have hit, they got the right coaches, the right surroundings. They have great weapons. Listen, Dave Gettleman took a year to try to bring a lineman in here. They tried to bring weapons in here. They've tried to do that. It just hasn't worked. It's not Daniel
Right.
Jones' fault. A lot of injuries, just stuff happens. But
No.
you know, it don't help looking at other places and going, "Oh, we should be doing that." It's just that's not the kind of fan I'm going to focus on what we're doing, what we have, and I'm going to
Right.
evaluate off of that.
Hey,
Yeah, that's my
people.
take.
People forget, man. They look at Buffalo. They said, "Oh, look at Josh. Look at Buffalo. Look at Josh Allen. We should be like." Listen, let me tell you something. When we were winning 2 Super Bowls, don't you think the Buffalo fans might have been looking at us because they were before the Bills became good these last 2-3 years? They were terrible for a really long time, much longer than us. So
Yeah,
people have to remember that it takes time to build. I'm not saying it's going to take 13 years, but and the Giants do have some talent and some pieces. Daniel Jones was never given any real opportunity to be good. Okay, he's going into his third system in 4 years. He's never had an O line. Okay, it's the I don't care. Adam's gonna come on. I know it's coming, and I love Adam. I'm close with him, and he probably wants a new quarterback. I get it. People are tired of the losing. It's been horrible. December was a disgrace. And guess
yeah.
what? You could take a look at December and say we bottomed out. That was rock bottom. Guess what? Daniel Jones didn't even play December. So what does that tell you? How bad were we without him? And that should make you appreciate the guy a little bit. Doug, I see
It's
you
just
waiting, Doug. I have Adam waiting ahead of you. I bring on who calls first. Adam will come on, then Doug. So hang on there. I'm gonna try to work people on. I'm just saying, no O line. Third system in 4 years. Weapons that are never consistently healthy at all. And everyone knows that I've always said that it's a funny thing that when you're winning, how you're healthier than when you're losing.
yeah,
Isn't
for
that
real.
a true statement, man? When you're losing, players seem to get injured all the time. They find reasons not to play. It's not fun. You're a loser. It's not exciting. We had an offense that couldn't get the ball out to the weapons anyways. We saw one good game with the Saints, and we saw, Tony explode against Dallas. But other than that, man, it was an ugly season. And it's funny how injuries find losers. But a lot of winning teams, these players that are injured, they find a way to get back in like a week or two. It's a
Yeah,
funny thing. So
I've been on teams that lose. Really, just they lose a lot. It's horrible. It beats you down. It really
it's an
does. It
infection.
beats you
It's an
down.
infection.
It is. It is. And yeah, I mean, these guys just have to learn how to win. I mean, I hate that like that that saying, but there is a little truth to it. These guys don't know how to win. They've never had the coaching staff in here, the roster to win. So hopefully Dable can bring it in, bring in a winning mentality in here. So
Yeah, definitely. And I wasn't against Judge. I was excited when he came in. He gave a great rah-rah speech. But I think New York was not the place for him to start because the media was already like a pack of wolves and the fans were just foaming at the mouth. And he came in and gave a speech that made people believe we were going to win right away. And everything went really downhill in the second season. So I think New York was not the place for him to start out. I hope he gets another shot again. I know he's back in New England, which is probably better for him. But I feel like the guys we hired right here are they're laid back. You're not hearing all this rah-rah and promises. And I think that they're quietly going to build the team the right way. They're not making any promises, and I think it's going to take time. I think you've heard me say this before. I think they are doing the right thing with their mouth about Daniel Jones because he's the guy here. He's the first guy the coach meets the day he comes in because Jones is in the gym working his ass off and nobody else is there. The guy's putting in the time. He has heart. He's a smart guy, and he has a strong arm. And so they will give him the shot this year. But I think things are kind of set up where they might have their eyes on the 23 draft for a quarterback. My heart hopes Jones has a good year, that they have a good direction, and that he can stay. It's better for us if he was the guy because then we could draft other needs. But I think it would be smart if they find a way to set up for 23 just in case. That would be the smart thing to do. And just real quick, I was wondering, opinion, will you stay mind if we bring on one caller each at a time? Maybe talk a little with them.
Yeah, I'll
If
stay
that would
on
be
if
all
you
right
want.
with
That's
you.
up to you.
Yeah,
That's up
I'd
to
like to
you.
have you on. And real quick, I've always said that I've always backed up Gettleman. And then I'm going to bring on some callers. And I see Adam's waiting. And we have a new guy, Doug Rush, who I met on Twitter. And I'm happy to have him on. My thing with Gettleman is I always backed him up because I felt the Giants really never allowed him to do exactly what he needed or wanted to do. And I know he's made some mistakes, and his cocky, arrogant way sometimes rubbed definitely the media the wrong way. I mean, I think the Giants and the media have been at war like for 5 years now. But
I
at
don't
the
need to
end of
like
the
my
day,
GM. Who cares about his personality? I just care about the players he puts on the team. So
dude, I think
that's like
I've
little
always
petty
said
stuff.
Gettleman's been in this league for 38 years for a reason, man. People made it sound like he's some schmo off the street. The guy's been in the league 38 years for a reason. He's been here for like what, 2 or 3 of our Super Bowls. He's one of the head scouts. He's one of the better scouts in the league for years. The man
Remember,
knows.
remember John Elway's last couple of years Super Bowls he won.
Right.
Gettleman helped build that team too with Terrell Davis, all them. He built that roster. He was the player
Yeah.
personnel
People
guy
don't mention
over in
that,
their front
man.
office. Yeah, I mean
People
he's
don't
been
want to,
part of like 5 Super Bowls. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I get it. He's the old dog that with an arrogant way, with the New England accent, and a lot of the younger fans didn't like it. And a lot of the younger fans basically brainwashed by the media. They don't
of
form their
course.
own opinions. But
No, nobody does nowadays.
I don't feel, it didn't work here. Things weren't working, but I definitely wouldn't put the blame on him. I've always said start your biggest blame on ownership because they had, and I love the ownership. They're our owners, and Mara wants to win. But I think that whole thing that went down with Eli, Mara felt like he owed him something back, and that threw this organization backwards for 5 years.
Yep.
So
I
it
don't
all
think he
started
expected the
with that.
backlash. Like when they benched Eli, I think it was so overwhelming, the negative backlash Mara got. He kind of overcompensated when he just didn't realize we were freaking out because it was Geno Smith. We don't want to see Geno Smith.
And the ownership knew exactly what was going to happen because McAdoo had asked them, but I think he went to the wrong backup, and
Yep.
that's what happened.
Yeah, they should have went to Webb.
All right, I got
Yep.
some guys waiting. I know you and Adam love each other. No big deal, but we talk about the draft and prospects. I'm bringing on Adam. Doug, you are next. Give me a few minutes. Hang on. I really want to have you on. All right. What's going on? My man, Adam. Can't hear you, Adam. I think you have it on mute. Adam's having some problems with his mic. If you gotta hang up, Adam, and call back in, we're here. I know something's up with. Adam, give me a call back. How you doing, Doug?
I'm doing good. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, sir. How are you? It's nice to have you on.
Of course.
Appreciate you coming through, showing support. Thank you.
Of course. Glad to be here.
What's going on, Doug? What talk? The mic's yours. Anything you want to talk about? The draft? Would you like to see the Giants do?
Oh, I'd like to see the Giants get back to winning football. I hate covering a losing football team, that's for sure. We guys were talking about Dave Gettleman before. I mean, and to emphasize on what Giant Opinion said before, not only was he a scout on the Denver team, but he was also a scout on the Buffalo Bills team that went to 4 Super Bowls. So Dave Gettleman knew what he was doing as a football person. It's just when he got to be a GM.
Go ahead, Doug. Continue.
I was saying when Gettleman got to be a GM, it's just like it's like he was trying to build a team in the 1980s and forgot a lot of like the necessities that that winning football teams needed. Like, okay, so you got Saquon Barkley at number 2, which is still going to be one of the most highly debated things that we're going to talk about until Barkley leaves. But at the same time, like, you built that offensive line the wrong way. You didn't emphasize the edge rush and the pass rush, and just he spent all this money on these veterans that were past their prime and didn't put any money on things that the Giants needed. And then you saw I mean, 2018 was the season, was probably the best season Gettleman had when they went 5-11, because
Can
a
you hear
lot
me?
of those a
I hear
lot
you.
of those a lot of those games were lost by the defense, and then ever since then, the Giants got worse and worse until the point where he literally stripped all their money from their cap, and left the team in a mess. And his parting gift was, I'm retiring, and you're in 10 million under the cap, and good luck. So that's why Dave Gettleman will never be thought of well with the current Giant fan base. So.
I
Right.
also think he didn't pick the right coaches as well. I mean, his coaches weren't the.
Well, if you think about so you think about Joe Judge. Okay, so when they fired Pat Shurmur, who I did not think should have been fired, when you pick Daniel Jones. Okay, so Jones' best season was with Shurmur. You fire Shurmur, which I did not think was the right move, because Shurmur was working well with Daniel Jones. So his first pick was going to be Matt Rule. Matt Rule went to Carolina. He wanted to interview Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera went to the Commanders. He wanted to interview Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy interviewed, but then his second interview got canceled because he took the Cowboy job. Joe Judge was the fourth pick that was basically all right, we just need a coach. And he got so wowed with Joe Judge because he was a Belichick guy. But really, again, Bill Belichick guys don't do well on their own. And yeah, they went 6-10 the first year. The Seahawks game was great. They almost made the playoffs, and then they just did a whole 180 backwards. And I mean, Joe Judge could have kept his job, except for the last 2 weeks when he decided to go on an 11-minute rant about God knows what. And then the two quarterback sneaks, which basically show that he was giving up on offense with, on second down. Yes, you didn't want to get, caught in a safety, but you could have gained some yards on the 2-yard line. You could have gotten out of that. And instead, he's thinking about give-up plays. And then everybody lost faith in Joe Judge, and there was no surviving those last 2 weeks, and Judge had to go.
Well, you got to sell your season tickets. That's the problem. Well, if you remember that game, what the hell's the backup's name? He threw a pass and didn't even get hit, and it just fumbled.
Jake Fromm?
Jake Fromm. I didn't have a problem with it. Honestly, I was so done with the season. I thought the kneeling thing was way overblown. I mean, the quarterback can't even throw a forward pass without fumbling. I mean, at that point, just kneel and be done with the year. So I thought that was a little overblown by fans. Since the Miami game, I was pretty much like, I don't care anymore. So
well, after the Eagle game, they didn't win a single game. They went 0-6 to end the year because they didn't have a competent backup. I mean, Jake Fromm is what he is. He was a practice squad player who, he got his reps in. He wasn't good enough. And that's fine. I commend Joe Judge for at least getting Jake Fromm into a game to see what he is, because that's the opposite of what Ben McAdoo did with Davis Webb, and you guys talked about that. If he had done that, Ben McAdoo actually would have probably kept his job to the end of the year. But at least we got to see what Jake Fromm is. He's not an NFL competent quarterback right now, and the Giants can still evaluate going forward, which I think is going to be Daniel Jones this year, because I don't get the sense they're taking a quarterback. But you never know. We still got 2 months left between now and the draft. I don't get the sense they're going to go quarterback in this draft. I think they're going to stick with Daniel Jones. You get a decent backup, whether it's Mitch Trubisky, Marcus Mariota, somebody better than Mike Glennon. You go with them. And then if Daniel Jones either just doesn't cut it under Brian Daboll's system, or if he gets hurt again, which could very well happen because he's been hurt every single year he's been a pro. If something happens where it's like, all right, maybe Daniel Jones isn't our guy, or if Daniel Jones just needs a fresh start elsewhere, then you look at 2023 where you have a lot of quarterbacks who are supposed to go within the top 10, and then you go from there.
Right. I do think that this is just my opinion, my feeling also, that Judge thought he definitely had another year or two here, from what he was promised from the owner. And I think that I really believe this. I don't think Jones's neck is hurt. I've heard he's already given a clean bill. He's working out. He's been throwing football. So I believe the neck was never what they made it out to be in the media. And I feel that O-line was so bad that they decided to put Jones on the bench for the rest of the year. Number one, they didn't want to get him killed. Number two, I really believe without actually showing that they're doing it in a roundabout way, I think they wanted to lose out. I'll be honest.
That's a uh, that's a heck of a cover up, though, Miz. I mean, he was going to see
I
neck
know it is.
specialist over and over.
I know it is, but they were in bad shape. They realized that the O line was probably so much worse than they thought in the beginning of the year.
It was. It was.
And I think
imagine if
that
Jones plays a game, maybe Judge is still here, right? I mean, if Jones is injured and you want to save Judge, right? Jones would be the guy to keep in because maybe we win one of the two of those games that we thought we couldn't win because we had an incompetent quarterback. So for me,
Right.
I want to believe that, but I don't want to believe that because if that's on the Giants for doing that, then it's dumb on Joe Judge's part because then if you're tanking, then there's no shot that you're going to make, be here next year because the last thing that killed everybody in this year was, like I said, it fell apart. I was listening to a podcast. I think it was Jordan Renan said something along the lines of like 5 weeks left in the season. It was basically affirmed Joe Judge was coming back. And then like Giant Opinion Sports and Doug said here, once those games came in Chicago and the rant and the Eagle debacle and losing to Washington, once those things happened, it was just they couldn't do anything. And Steve Tisch kind of moved in and was like, hey, listen, you got to get rid of them. Now, Giant Opinion Sports is right. It's probably a PR move that they did, but if you're trying to sell tickets next year for Giant fans and you still got the same guys here who basically tanked the last 6 games, well, guess what? I don't want to go see them. But now with Brian Dable in there, I'm reinvigorated as a fan. Now I'll definitely. I'm not saying people wouldn't sign up, but the casual fan might not be as invested. So, I hope it does well. I'm not saying they're going to go for a quarterback. Giant Opinion Sports. I worship your videos, so keep doing them. I respect your game. I don't want to think that I'm coming at you or anything like that. I don't think they're going to go for a quarterback. All I'm saying, for me, with that situation, and I'm not going to mention his name because it seems to start a firestorm everywhere, is I just need to see more for him, for me.
Dude, I don't care. Listen, Adam, you can say what I don't care. What made me aggravated that one day is like you were saying things that I wasn't saying, like you were putting words in my mouth. Talk about Daniel Jones all you want. I don't care. Just don't talk about my wife. That's all. Then I'm going to find your IP. I'm going to track you down. But talk about Daniel Jones all you want. I don't care. Go for it.
I wouldn't do that. Daniel Jones is more.
Listen, I sat through years of my friends calling Eli Manning a breed, the R word.
Me too.
So this is nothing new to me. I welcome all this stuff.
This is giant quarterback 101, man. I mean, Phil Simms got it. Eli Manning got it. Hell, I was a guy like you defending Dave Brown and Ken Graham and Danny Cannell. I'm like, yeah, man.
I don't defend Danny. The thing is, like, I don't defend. Maybe you view it that way, but there is things other than Daniel Jones that has been a factor in why it hasn't worked out here. I mean, you can kind of try and wash that away. It goes both ways, Adam. This goes both ways. We just trying to be fair about this, as fair as I can be. And people on both sides take it as an excuse or I'm being too hard. Like, I can't make everybody happy. This is just my opinion. Say whatever you want, dude, about Daniel Jones.
I get those points. My point for Daniel Jones is the fundamentals that I see, the flaws in his game that have still stuck with him now that are hindering him from growing into the quarterback we know he can become. So those are the things I need to see him clean up. Because if he does that, and the other thing I'm worried about with this whole thing is the season is coming in with a new everything, right? New coaching system, new quarterback, new eyes, new everything. My worry is that the Giants start off sluggish, right? And let's say they bring in Mitchell Trubisky, and by week 4 or 5, because Daniel's struggling out the gates because receivers aren't on the same page, we're pounding the table to have Trubisky come in. You know what I mean? It's that's the type of, especially if the season goes south, it's going to be, the dogs are going to be out. So I'm hoping this is the reason why maybe getting rid of him is not a bad idea. Maybe you go and say, hey, Daniel, go somewhere else, reestablish yourself. We did you dirty here. We're going to be a bad team anyways this year. No need to perpetuate you and get you injured for your next team. Because,
if you want a good sense, if the Giants believe in Daniel Jones, if you want to get a good sense on what they think of him, it's going to be if they pick up his 5th-year option. They have 2 months to decide. If May 1st is the deadline, if they pick up the option, I don't know, because they haven't picked up his option yet. So if they don't pick up his option, I don't think they will either, just because of the money sense. But if they don't pick his option up, I mean, you've kind of gotten a sense of, well, we don't view you as the future because we aren't picking up your option. I mean, granted, they could sign him, to an extension during the season, but at the same time, you don't pick up the option. You've kind of given the sense that we're looking towards the future and probably the draft or maybe a free agent quarterback. And it's kind of the writings on the wall that Daniel Jones isn't the guy going forward. So, but it's still make or break for Daniel Jones, especially if he wants to be a professional. If he wants to have, a future in the NFL and doesn't want to be somebody's backup for the next 10 years, he's going to have a good 2022 season and try to make himself look competent. Otherwise, he's going to be looking like the route of Mitch Trubisky and all the other guys who once were starters and now are, riding somebody's coattail as a backup, hoping for another chance.
Well, and there's the counter argument to that is that, Daniel Jones can do that, but at the same time, I wouldn't, for me personally, I would not pick up his option because, he has the neck injury, whether you want to call it fake or not. He hasn't proven to me anything that he can even stay healthy. So if you do that, you're paying $21 million. On the flip side, if you don't do it, right, you and he does have a good season. Now you're paying the franchise tag type of game, right? Because now you're going to have to franchise him and then work out a deal. So for me, I would just say, because do we really believe that this season is going to be a good season? Like, do we really believe when they take everybody out and, make their trades and try to put this roster together that we're getting players that are going to have a winning season?
Probably not, but who knows?
So my point is, if we're not having a winning season, why waste a guy's, career here another year as a punching bag just because we have a quarterback? That to me, if you already know Mitchell Trubisky's available, you throw a few dollars more at him. You say Daniel Jones, you go to another team that may need a quarterback that's in a better situation, and then you take Trubisky and just punt the season like you're going to anyways. And then next year you're already in the running for a 20.
Well, how much is Daniel Jones making? Because Trubisky's going to get $8 to $10 million.
Make $23 million next year.
No,
how much this year?
Trubisky only made $3 million this year.
Want to make a bet right now? Trubisky's going to get at least $8 million this year.
How? He only made $3 million this year.
How? Because somebody's going to bring him in to be a starter or a borderline starter.
His by Sporttrack.com, his number is $8 million.
Somebody's going to give him $8 to $10 million. You watch.
The Giants.
I'll put money on it right now.
No,
the Giants cannot afford.
Mitchell Trubisky made $2.5 million last year.
Yeah, Trubisky cannot. You cannot, as the Giants, you cannot give a backup quarterback $8 million.
Well, I don't think he's going to be the backup because
you might give him $5 million to double his money, but
I don't think he'll take it. Yeah.
Why wouldn't he? For a chance to be a starter?
If he gets $8 million to be a starter, God bless him. His agent gets so much credit because the Giants cannot give him that. The Giants have so many holes on this team. Right. They cannot give a backup quarterback $8 million. They can't.
Well, I
agree. Quarterback. What I'm saying is,
but Mitchell Trubisky is hope to a fan base that has no quarterback. Mitchell Trubisky is hope, and it will sell tickets for a team.
It's not hope. We just know that we're punting on.
You got to name a team or two.
Because to me,
I don't know. New Orleans. I don't know who don't have a quarterback right now.
No, I mean, there's quarterbacks. I mean, Jameis Winston's out there. Teddy Bridgewater's out there. I mean Carson Wentz's situation, he's going to be playing elsewhere. The Deshaun Watson situation. There's a lot of other quarterbacks. Jimmy G.
Bay?
Although Tampa Bay needs – I mean, Seattle with Russell Wilson. There's a lot of quarterbacks who might be playing elsewhere. I mean, I don't know. If Trubisky is offered $8 million, the Giants cannot go chase him.
No, I'm not saying that. I think what I'm saying is that I would trade Daniel Jones, who's making $8 million, tell him to get a fresh start, right, to a team that he has no history with, the fan base, like nothing, right? I think a lot. Who are
you trading him to? What team are you trading him? And are you getting a quarterback in return?
No, I'm getting draft picks. I'm not getting
draft picks.
My quarterback, like I said to you, would be probably Trubisky if I know I'm punting the season. All I'm saying is, if you're punting the season, what do I need a quarterback like Daniel Jones for?
All right,
well, I don't think they're going to punt the season.
I think they're at least try. I mean, the first season that you had Sean McDermott with Brandon Beane, the new regime of Buffalo, they went 6-10. Now, I mean, that given what the Giants were this past year, 6-11.
But does that keep Daniel Jones around?
No. Well, I mean, Adam's suggestion is to trade Daniel Jones. But what you want to see for the Giants, you want to see progress. So you're looking at a 6-11. You're looking at 7-10. You want to see some sort of progress that the Giants actually look better than they did last year. If you put a competent offensive line in front of whoever the quarterback is, you should see somewhat of an improvement. If you put a pass rush that was better than last year's, you should see some improvement. Now, I think with a football person like Joe Shane, who learned under Brandon Beane and who studied under Bill Parcells, I think he knows a little bit. I think he has a better concept of what today's football is than Dave Gettleman thinking that it's still 1989. I mean, Joe Shane helped build the Buffalo Bills that you see that was 13 seconds away from getting to the AFC Championship game. And I mean, you saw a good offensive line. You saw a good pass rush. You saw a good, tough defense. And Joe Shane has already been working toward the first 4 rounds of the draft. So I know
who was their quarterback in 2017 when he came on?
Who was before?
It was Tyrod Taylor.
Tyrod Taylor.
So my point is,
has been the most unlucky. Who has been one of the most unlucky quarterbacks
in the history
in this league? Oh my goodness! With all the injuries, he deserves some shot to start. He does. I mean, he's been so unlucky with all the injuries. I get it.
He's got some talent. But my point is a guy like that you bring in, right? Then next year they were in the running to pick a quarterback. Now, if we believe that next year they're going to be picking a quarterback, you win this year. Guess what? You're going higher up in the draft, so you won't be closer to where you need to go to get a bona fide quarterback. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you really want a chance at the top guys, you need to be inside the top 10. And if you are outside the top 10, you're going to be mortgaging the future, which we still need. We're still going to have holes to then get up into the top 10 to pick your quarterback.
See, I don't buy that at all.
So a possible idea, and I've done this in mock drafts, maybe dangle the number 5 pick to a team that maybe falls in love with a quarterback. And one of the trades I made was with Denver, where Denver offered me number 9, their pick, and also offered me a first rounder for next year to go move up to number 5. That's the kind of trade that I think Joe Shane might be looking to for a team that gets desperate for a quarterback, especially if the Giants aren't looking for a quarterback. Look towards next year so that not only do you maybe have 1 pick for next year, but maybe a second one, and you have 2 picks for next year. And then maybe if, let's say you finish 7-10 and you finish, let's say, with the 13th pick, well, maybe you have 2 bullets. You could maybe potentially move up for a guy that you want as a quarterback if it's CJ Stroud or whoever it is. That's a potential trade I would look at.
I'm predicating this right now as we have no trade, so I can't just assume they're going to make that trade, right? So all I have is the information.
It was a trade from a mock draft. One of the many.
No, I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is my thought process is just straight from, like, if we stay at 5, we stay at 7, right? So, and yes, we know that Tyrod Taylor was there in 2017. That's what we said.
Yes.
My point is that if we're going to have a bad season, then let's get rid of all the assets that we have to get as many. Joe Shane wants as many bites at the apple as he can, right? So, to me, if we're going to rebuild, let's rebuild it the correct way. Let's get as many draft picks as we can, build up the O-line, build up both sides of the ball, right? You don't like the quarterbacks in this class anyways. You bring in a free agent guy who already knows the system in Trubisky. You give him a bump in pay, right? Say, we'll pay you $5 million with the incentive to do this if you play a certain amount of games and hit a certain amount of stats, right? Not saying it's going to happen, right? You bring that guy in. He's going to probably do the same thing that Daniel Jones is going to do, right? He'll probably give you 5 or 6 wins. And then all of a sudden, now you're already ready to go get your quarterback if you haven't traded. Now, if you trade, it's a different story, right? But again, if we don't believe Daniel Jones is going to be here, why not get an asset for him now and not worry about him walking or having to pay him more money? Because once you pay him more money, you won't be able to fix the team, right? Because you put so much money into the quarterback position, and he's probably not going to want a pay cut like a Tom Brady or something like that. So then now you're going to be dabbling with guys leaving on the defensive side because we decided we didn't want to go the quarterback route. So I'm just saying, financially, it may be a way to go. I know people don't want to talk
here's the thing. I don't know if a team right now would trade for Daniel Jones, given the neck issue, given, the inconsistencies in his game. If you're going to trade Daniel Jones, I can honestly see it being like a training camp issue where some team's quarterback just got hurt. Like mid-season? You saw – no, like in August. Like some quarterback goes down like right before the start of the season, and somebody desperately needs a quarterback. Let's say you have a Marcus Mariota or a Mitch Trubisky or whoever, or Colt McCoy, whoever it is, behind Daniel Jones, and you don't believe in Daniel Jones and you think he's already gone. Then you dangle Daniel Jones and be like, all right, well, you need a quarterback. You just lost somebody. we'll offer him to you right now for some draft pick, and then you move Daniel Jones, and now you can start whatever quarterback you had as a backup as your starter, and then you can figure out, all right, well, we're going to get 17 games out of this guy, and then you can evaluate, and either it's going to be, that guy could be going forward, or you look at it at the 2023 draft and one of the quarterbacks as your next guy.
This is why I love the
I
offense.
just want to include Ash, since he's in the chat. I'd like to include a little bit of what he's writing to you guys. He writes, using Daniel Jones as a stopgap is smart, especially cheap, which pretty much is what I was agreeing with.
He's not cheap. I mean, $8 million is not
Showing
cheap.
team to the Bills in 2017. Had Tyon Taylor was on the Bills 2015. Same concept as using him as a stopgap. Why pay? If you want to answer this at the end, Adam, why pay more for Trubisky than you are Daniel Jones?
I mean, I don't know. Tyrod Taylor's a free agent. You want that guy? If you want a cheaper guy, I mean, we can go cheaper if you want. I mean, we're not going to pay most guys. All I'm saying is if I can get a draft pick for him now, because you're saying that he's cleared, Miz, to throw a football, right?
I heard on WFAN. I believe it was Kim Jones or someone in there that knows what's going on. He's been cleared by doctors. He's already been lifting weights already for a few weeks.
He just hasn't been cleared yet for contact until August.
Right.
He's been cleared for until August.
Right.
August is when he'll actually
put it this way, man. He'll be on the field and ready for training camp. You can put it that way.
He should be. They should.
Right.
If barring any setbacks, he should be ready to go for August for training camp.
Well,
he likely won't play a single game in training in preseason, but he should be ready to go for the summer.
Which is tough because if he comes out struggling out the gate, the vultures are coming. I'm just, listen.
You know what's funny, Adam? He came out the gate this year looking pretty damn good until we suffered a couple injuries on the O-line, and it all went downhill.
But then things went bad. So now we have to get him out of that funk. Hopefully he's not a shot fighter,
I honestly think the week 2 when Darius Slayton dropped that
would have been the season there.
When he dropped what would have been the game's seal or touchdown, that's when the season just deteriorated. I mean, they would have won that game against Washington. They go 1-1. They probably go to Atlanta. I mean, they laid such an egg against. They should have beaten Atlanta in that game, but yet they couldn't stop Grady Jarrett. And I just feel like ever since that Washington game, that's when the whole season fell apart.
Doug, I agree with you. I think that play.
I think the Cowboys game is where it all fell apart. We were coming off of a good win at New Orleans, and then everybody went down. And I think that's when Daniel Jones hurt his neck, to be honest with you. I don't think he had a concussion at all. It was reported he could have came back in the game if he wanted to, and he chose not to. I think that neck injury happened there.
They showed when he got hit. He looked like he got knocked out pretty bad when they were showing him. He stumbled.
What hit are we talking about?
The Cowboy hit at the goal line.
The goal line on the Cowboys.
You heard my video on that. I went off for 24 minutes on the way they used him like he's some type of fullback, man. They're going to get the guy killed, so.
Yeah, but you have to be smart as well. I mean, the play that he got injured on in the Eagle game was the same thing. He put his head down, and that guy just torpedoed him. He was
sliding on that one.
That goal line play in Dallas, man, where he rolled out to his left and tried to go over the linebacker on the goal line, which any quarterback would do on a goal line. You're trying to get your shoulder and that ball over the line. So he did the right thing. You didn't even have Barkley in the backfield, so you were not fooling anybody. And that was my problem.
Barkley was already hurt. Barkley had his ankle stepped on.
Right.
That's where he got lost.
Down.
Oh, they got banged up. So, I mean, that was such a letdown. I mean, they came off one of the best wins of the season, probably their best win of the season in New Orleans. They were feeling good. They go to Dallas. Everybody got hurt. Kadarius Toney gets thrown out after a 200-yard game. I mean, just everybody got hurt.
I was so mad at Judge for that, man. Like, come on, man. You gotta know he's defending his guy.
You guys are talking about Jones getting traded, but I don't think he will. I think he's going to be here for this one more year. But
yeah, I'm over Jones.
The guy who is going to get traded, I think you want to talk about is Barkley, because I think Barkley is being shopped.
Yeah, but look what you get for him, honestly.
It's a tough scenario because if you trade, do you really want to use another draft pick on a running back when you have so many holes on this team? Yeah, okay, do you not resign it? I mean, do you give him the Ezekiel Elliott contract? Probably not. But at the same time, I honestly think the Giants' feeling is that they see what he is right now. You play him. You see what he is when he's healthy, and then you wait and see. Are you 0-6 or 1-5? And do you maybe shop him at the trade deadline where maybe you get something for him? I don't know. I mean, it sounds like from the way Brian Dable and Joe Shane talk that they want to play Barkley, but at the same time, I think they're in the same sense that if they get an offer for Saquon Barkley, they probably would at least entertain the offer. Do they take it? I don't know. But that goes back to Joe Shane wanting to have as many bullets in the chamber as possible for draft picks. I don't get the sense that there's anyone right now dying to trade for Saquon Barkley because they have running backs. They can go get a running back in the draft if they want somebody.
Right. And you could get one in the 5th round, too. You could get one in the 5th round in this draft. There's a bunch of them.
Plus, the Giants also got Antonio Williams from the Buffalo Bills, too. So I think he's going to be the guy who ends up taking Devontae Booker's place, who's going to be a likely salary cap cut because he makes $2 million and they could save it and that money for him. Honestly, I don't get the sense that any team right now is looking to trade for Barkley, and I think the Giants are going to have to keep him and play him.
Well, here's what I think. You're not going to. What are you really going to get?
Go ahead, opinion. Go ahead.
Well, what are you really going to get for him? If you're not getting a first or a second, fourth, something like that, you're going to get a comp pick.
According to Jordan Renan, there'll be there's a third rounder on the table for Barkley.
But you'll get a comp pick for that in 2 years if you just let him walk anyways. And if the Giants are really serious about giving Daniel Jones the best shot at being the best player he can be, you're keeping Saquon Barkley on a team. I mean, pure and simple. If they trade Saquon Barkley, that gives me a big answer on where they're sitting on Daniel Jones. A real big answer on, and that'll be a tell for me. So that's how I feel about it.
That's a good point. I agree with that too. I mean, a healthy Saquon, and I think that the 2 times that we saw a healthy Saquon where he looked like the Saquon of old, at least 2019, was the Saints game and the Bears game, where he was getting 100 yards total in both games. He looked like he was healthy. He was making the cuts, and I think maybe a new coaching system with Dable and everyone else that's coming in. I think they're going to try to get Saquon to stop with the dancing behind the goal line. Just push those legs, use your body, and push forward.
That comes with a real O-line, man, right, Dub? That comes with a real O-line.
Yes, absolutely.
Start jumping again.
Get a push. I mean, he got 100 yards with that god-awful offensive line against the Bears. Let's see what he could do with a good offensive line where they're pushing forward. Maybe we get back to the Barkley where he was getting glad I came to Prince Ideology. Commercials.
A good statement here by Ash. Derrick Henry gets paid $12.5 million a year. If they want Barkley in their long-term plans, they need to sign him now. He won't get paid more than Henry. I don't think he'll sign now. Why would he sign now? Starting to trend back down.
There's no. I don't think a running back. I don't think the Giants would sign him now anyway. I think they want to. They would wait and see. I think they would.
Well, if you're Saquon Barkley, why are you signing now? That makes no sense. You're at your absolute lowest value. You wouldn't. Exactly. You're going to wait.
Yeah. You want to prove that you're back to being the 2018, 2019 Barkley. He's betting on himself, and he's betting on he could be the guy of old. So he's going to try to show that not only the Giants but the entire league that, hey, I'm back to who I am. I have this, 1,000-yard season, whatever type of season, and then he's going to go into possible free agency and try to get the most possible.
Or Giants could franchise tag him twice if they want.
They absolutely could too. They absolutely could franchise him if they want to. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they're going to do that. I mean, you're right.
We don't know because we don't know what kind of season Saquon Barkley is going to have. I mean, he's betting on himself. He's betting on having a 1,500-yard season, but for all we know, he could get another injury, and then he bet and he lost, and then he has to take whatever's possible, which the Giants could benefit from that. Be like, all right, we'll take you back for $2 million a year, and you could try all over again, and then go back to free agency.
Well, he ain't doing $2 million, but yeah, I get what you're saying.
I picked some random number. I mean, he gets a low instead of number, and then he tries to bet on himself again. I mean. He's betting on himself that he's going to have this monster 22-year. whether he finishes with the Giants or he gets traded at the deadline, he's essentially betting on himself by taking the $7 million option. He's hoping that he has a tremendous year, and then he goes into free agency and hopes for the best.
Well, right now,
I want to see 2 healthy years in a row with Daniel Jones or Saquon Barkley. Like, if Daniel Jones comes out, throws 40 touchdowns, you franchise tag him, prove to me you can stay healthy for 2 years and be productive. Saquon Barkley, same thing. So, and if they're both good, then you probably you focus more towards Daniel Jones than Saquon Barkley. Probably a situation where he walks then.
The thing is, someone said on another stream that you pay them both because next year you have the money to do it. But I'm like, well, you're going to be putting a lot of resources into 2 guys and then taking away resources from the other team. I mean, you forget you're still going to have to pay a Leonard Williams. You're still going to have to pay other guys. You may want to go out and get free agency because free agents to fill in these holes. And if you have all that money tied into those 2 guys who, like you guys said, haven't finished a full season, it's not smart business practice. That's why I think both guys are going to earn it. I think one of them is going to be gone at the trade deadline midway through the season because I think they'll say, well, listen, we're not going anywhere anyways. Let's get something in return for you and not worry about the comp pick later. We can get something next year right away. So we'll see what happens. I mean, this team is going to look a lot different. I'm excited for what's going on. First off season that I've been excited about the entire team. It's kind of nerve-wracking because we have a new regime. We have no history to go off of except for in Buffalo, but we have no Giant history to go off of. We don't know what his tendencies technically will be. And then we also got another guy in here that people aren't talking about, Brandon Brown from the Eagles. And I think that's a good start, too, because you're taking from your division rival who scouted your team. He was in pro player personnel, and his job was to scout opponents, right? So he'll have a good idea of what to get and how to get things and seeing guys across the league. So I'm very excited about Joe Shane and Brent Brown working.
Well, Adam, here's another factor. How's the offensive line looking at the end of next year? If the offensive line is looking great and you got young guys and it looks like they're building, I mean, I think Saquon Barkley kind of becomes expendable because at that point you can bring any other kind of running back in here and they're going to be productive. Whereas maybe if the Giants' offensive line still looks like a mess, maybe then you feel more pressure to bring back Saquon Barkley because he can do things without an offensive line.
Well, I think that's why he was drafted in the first place. Remember, that's what Dave Gettleman said, right? When they didn't take an offensive lineman, they were like, he makes an offensive line better, right? That was one of his quotes as to, well, you're drafting him number 2 overall. You have a bad offensive line. He's like, oh, he's going to make this offensive line better. Due to injuries, he's limited some of his effectiveness and his explosiveness. Hopefully this year, I think someone said it on the podcast too. They said this year he doesn't have to focus on a injury to rehab, right? He only has to focus on getting stronger, faster, quicker, right? So this year you might see a Barkley who's less tentative because his knee is fully healthy. So yes,
he's
I want
scared.
to.
You can tell he's scared to cut. He's scared to cut and move. He's terrified.
But I think this past year he wasn't really ready for that opinion. I think that he came back fast. There was a lot of pressure. Like he said, another offseason of rehab, running. He's going to do a lot of stuff that he didn't do last summer. And I think next year you're going to really, really see the real Barkley. But again, you have to put together a O-line.
Well, that's why I like Brian Daboll, because he's going to feature Barkley. I think last year the problem with Jason Garrett's offense, besides it sucking, was it was built around Saquon Barkley, right? It was built once Barkley went down. In 2020 there was no backup plan. He came in and basically wanted to build his whole offense around the best player on offense, which I think that's a smart move, but you also need a backup plan. Once that happened, it went to shit. This year, Brian Daboll's going to say, hey, Dan, you see that guy 26 who's doing a little flare out? Yeah, make sure you can get him involved. Because I think this year you'll see him be, I wouldn't say Kamara is the right word, because I think Kamara is a little sleeker in the receiving game, but a guy who's utilized all over the field, right? A guy who's going to be a weapon, run a couple screenplays. When have we executed a good screenplay with this guy? I mean, you're going to have him and Kadarius Toney and hopefully another weapon or two. Maybe this offense can light a spark under something. You know what I mean? I think hopefully he'll also get Kenny Golladay involved. And one thing I like about Brian Daboll is he incorporates people's suggestions. Now, I don't know how many of those plays are going to be run, but if, Daniel Jones says, I like this, or this play worked a couple years ago, let's see what input is given, because I just want an offense that's going to score points. Last year, apparently their philosophy was, let's score 13 points and hopefully our defense wins games for us. And this year, I just want to see them score some points, so I'm not sleeping at halftime. So
a lot of things that people forget about the Buffalo offense this past year. they had almost 2,000 yards rushing. And I mean, that was between 3 people. And granted, their second best rusher was Josh Allen, who had 700 yards. Now, I don't think that Daniel Jones is going to be rushing for that much, but then again, he's got the legs to do it. But I think if you have a healthy Saquon Barkley who is well rested, actually is mentally, ready to cut and make the moves that he used to, yeah, I mean, everybody forgets Saquon Barkley had 2,000 yards total his rookie year, and that included, I think he had a good 700 something plus yards of receiving. So
Yeah,
I
90
think
something receptions.
at least, yeah. I mean, he was a tremendous pass catching back, which made him so useful. And that was Eli's second to last year. You have all these factors in a Brian Daboll offense who is very innovative and willing to do all different sort of things. A healthy Saquon Barkley we could be looking at not only just maybe 1,000-yard back again, but a back who's willing to catch 600 to 700 yards. But again, if he's healthy, that's been Barkley's biggest thing. I mean, and ever since his rookie year, I mean, Barkley's missed at least 3 games because of injury. So, but if he's healthy, that the key has been Barkley's health. Can he stay healthy this year? He's got a full year of rest. He's got a full year of trying to get his ACL healthy and his ankle healthy and anything else healthy. If he stays healthy, we could be seeing the Barkley that we saw back in 2018 or 2019.
Well, the biggest factor, I think, from 2020 to last year, Nick Gates and Shane Lemieux went down, and the running game was non-existent, gone. Because we saw when Shane Lemieux came in 2020, all of a sudden we started running like crazy. We were opening up all kinds of lanes. And then Shane Lemieux goes down week 1, Nick Gates week 2, and then it was Skura. He's a decent pass protector, but he does not
he's a backup.
move bodies.
He's a backup.
Yeah, he's a backup to a backup. And I think I feel like that was the biggest issue.
And Billy Price, I mean, he struggled at times. He was the second rated lineman for the Giants, but I think Billy Price's head was elsewhere. When you heard about the stuff with his wife and all that stuff, that kind of made sense to me that his head probably wasn't always in football. Because, I mean, that was a former first-round pick and a decent center and a guard who could give you some depth. But, I mean, for him to play that poorly, and the stuff that came out, it made sense what was going on for him. So, but, I mean,
he was good in the second half.
He was decent.
From week 8. From week 8 to the end of the year, he was like the 12th rated guard in the NFL. So he really, I think it was just he didn't know the playbook. He got thrown in the fire. He has new guards on both sides of him.
I mean, that offensive line, I mean, and that goes back to Dave Gettleman. I mean, did they really need to spend that money on Kenny Golladay? No, especially when you could have just brought back Kevin Zeitler. We could have plugged him right back into guard. You could have maybe put Will Hernandez,
How could you, though? He was so bad in 2020, and he was supposed to get like $17 million. For as bad as he was in 2020, you couldn't do it. You couldn't. I think they tried to work out a contract with him, and he just went, "No, cut me. I don't even want to be here anyway." So,
because Baltimore was waiting for him with a brand new contract, and he played great for Baltimore.
Well, he was good. I don't say he was great. He was good, but
it was better than what
he's the best lineman on our team, and even if he was bad, he was still the best lineman on our team.
Andrew Thomas would have been much better than him this year. But
then you talk about Zeitler.
He still wouldn't have helped. He still wouldn't have helped you in the run game. He's just a pass protecting guard.
He's
not going to open up many lines.
Will Hernandez wasn't picking up stunts. I mean, Will Hernandez.
No, he's always joke about.
I mean, Will Hernandez was great his rookie year, and then all of a sudden, it's like he couldn't figure out a stunt to save his life, and just was a running joke for 16 weeks.
Well, Hernandez was only good for the second half of his rookie season. The first half, he was horrendous. He was giving up. He gave up like 4 or 5 sacks the first 8 games of his career. He only had a good 8 game stretch towards the end of his rookie season. That's it, and he's been horrible.
I think you guys mentioned that, Gettleman has tried but has failed, right? I mean, Will Hernandez, Patrick Omame, Nate Solder,
who was the other center? Who was the other center he was obsessed with for a while? The big fat guy.
John Halapio.
Yes,
Halapio. Yeah, Halapio. Yeah,
I mean, he missed out on
when he had Spencer Pulley, who was a starter for the Chargers, sitting on the bench. Yeah.
He traded Ben Jones, which was dumb. I mean, Ben Jones would have been the best offensive.
That was tough.
But of course, he wanted to run. Well, he wanted to run a gap, and Ben Jones is a zone running guy, so I get like the team was headed in a different direction, but they probably should have
And
held
that
out.
brings
What,
me to Doug's point. Doug's right. Pat Shermer did not get a fair shake because he should have been here 3 years, so we could have seen it through. Right? We could have seen his quarterback.
exactly.
Look at the way Jones. I mean, for 16 games, and granted, Daniel Jones got hurt for 2, which is where Eli got to finish the rest of his career.
I think he could have played.
But I think they were protecting their investment, and I think they wanted to get Eli in for a couple games.
Do you remember they asked him? Remember they asked Daniel Jones? He says, "I'm ready to play." He would have played if they wanted to give Eli his hurrah.
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Jones is tough. I mean, Jones would have played. Maybe he gets hurt, maybe he doesn't. But I think they were protecting the investment as a rookie. They wanted to get Eli Manning in the last 2 games, which was totally fine. They did, and you know what? Give Jones the rest. But I mean, Daniel Jones played decent his rookie year. He looked like an aggressive rookie who was willing to challenge the field. He was willing to throw deep. He was willing to do all these things. He had a decent rookie year. And then, yes, they fire the coach. They bring in Joe Judge, who gets Jason Garrett forced on him by John Mara. And it's just, I don't know what kind of offense like he envisioned running for Daniel Jones. When you literally saw what he could do his rookie year, all of a sudden it's like he didn't realize, like, you know, oh, Daniel Jones can do these things. Like he looked like he never knew what to do with him.
It's interesting.
You need to run high-low concepts. He said he went with that pre-snap junk, curl route junk, curl flat junk he was running. That's not what Daniel Jones is. He's a high-low quarterback. Use him in a West Coast. It was just unbelievably stupid.
It was just stupid.
I feel like in week 1 against Pittsburgh, when he threw the red zone interception, I think that changed his whole confidence level, because before that, he was the most aggressive quarterback in the red zone, and he had all these touchdowns. That first game of the year where he kind of flirted the ball up against Pittsburgh and they intercepted and they were in the red zone, I just felt like his confidence just went down for some reason. I don't know why. That's what I felt like. He was kind of
listen, go back on YouTube, Adam, and there was Colin Cowherd is good friends with Jason Garrett. He said that he talked to Jason Garrett, and Jason Garrett sat Daniel Jones down and told him that if the turnovers kept coming, he was going to be gone. They coached that aggressiveness out of him purposely. They wanted a game manager. They thought the defense was win now. They wanted him to get by, just be a game manager, win games, and then hopefully he progresses along the way. But
he's not a
force
game manager.
a scheme on somebody that doesn't work for him. You got to do what he's best at. Like you can't.
And that was so foolish of Jason.
It was, and they destroyed our quarterback by doing it.
Yep. And this may cost him his career, because, you know, if we got an aggressive coordinator who fit his strength, and this is another reason why I'm mad at Judge, because if you know this isn't his strength, you need to step in and be like, listen, man, I need to do something here to get this guy to play, because he
tried, Adam. He tried at the end of the season. He went to John Mara and said, "This isn't work. This isn't the right system. We need to find a new offensive coordinator." And John Mara said, "Please give it a try."
Well, I think he was saving his ass, because if Joe Judge failed, Jason Garrett was his backup plan if he fired, Joe Judge midseason. Remember,
I don't think that at all.
Joe Judge was not a hire that John Mara likes to make. Someone that's out of the blue, someone that's, real young and up and coming, a guy that he hasn't seen before. He took Bill Belichick's word and he had him sign on a head coach that just got cut, that was part of this organization, and Jason Garrett. And
Jason Garrett, if you guys remember, Jason Garrett interviewed for the Giants job. And I think, if Jason Garrett didn't just get fired by the Cowboys, and I honestly think Jason Garrett was the guy that John Mara initially wanted, after getting spurned by Matt Rule and Ron Rivera.
Did it take a couple days? Doug, did it take a few days?
Nobody even knew who Joe Judge was. And all of a sudden it was like he was mentioned as part of like an interview schedule of, oh, Don Martindale's coming in. Oh, by the way, we're going to have Joe Judge in. Like Jason Garrett went from being fired by the Cowboys to all of a sudden being interviewed for the Giant job. And a lot of us thought that Jason Garrett was getting the job. I mean, and I think which would have caused a full-on riot in East Rutherford.
Well, I think
I remember that. There were whispers of that. I remember that.
Wasn't Garrett not fired for a couple days though? Like, wasn't he?
Yeah,
still
there was like 2 or 3 meetings. Like Jerry Jones did not want to fire him, but he had no choice, because he got tired of the 8-8s and the 9-7s. Plus, Mike McCarthy was available, and I think he had Mike McCarthy in mind for the
I think
Cowboys
the Giants won them
job.
too.
I thought
The only thing that
McCarthy
guy's
was
good
gonna
at is eating
be,
hot dogs.
actually,
He's horrible.
McCarthy
That's me.
interviewed. McCarthy interviewed. He interviewed for the Giant job. He spurned the Giants for a second interview because he had the
Thank God.
sleepover with Jerry
Yeah, thank
Jones,
God, man.
and they fell in love with each other. And they spooned, and they had their love
They
fest.
touched each other's feet.
I
Did
know
a couple lines of blow in Jerry's
Yeah.
office.
and then Jerry Jones is introducing Mike McCarthy as the head coach. I mean, great.
Now
I
he
mean,
wants to fire him.
now he wants to fire him for. He probably wants to give the job to Kellen Moore, but
You want to know something?
That guy's horrible.
Judge's biggest mistake of all, was firing Garrett in the middle of the year.
he had no
Yes.
choice.
Well,
He had
it
no
was-
choice. It was
He was either. It was
that
either
offense
be,
was so bad that Garrett actually knew what he was doing. He knew the offense was
no,
so
he didn't
terrible.
know what he was doing.
That's why he called such a conservative game plan, man.
but at the same
Jason
time,
Garrett slapped down his playbook and then said, "Let's run it." They didn't scheme nothing. If you remember, before last year, they actually sat down Freddie Kitchens and actually had incorporated some of the stuff from Pat Sherman, some of that high-low stuff.
Yep.
The interview that Joe Judge, after they fired Jason Garrett, he said, "Listen, we are running certain kinds of plays the last 2 weeks and game planning a certain way, and then the games weren't being called that way because he would revert back to that same junk, that same curl flat junk, and it wasn't working. Everybody's sitting on the sticks and just waiting for it." I think that's what got him fired. Is they weren't doing what they were game planning. He was just calling. He's like a cripple. Something would happen, he'd revert right back into his same stuff.
I mean,
That's
Freddie
a type
Kitchens,
of that's a type of confidence he had in the O-line, which was pretty much zero. You know,
zero.
Hey,
Yeah, I mean,
fellas,
Freddie.
thanks for having me on. Good talk with you,
Yeah.
Doug. You got great
Good
knowledge
having you,
on
Adam.
sports. Love
keep
your
the show
love
going
your
a few
videos.
more minutes.
Love your draft.
Take
Miz,
it easy,
thanks a
man.
lot. And
Talk to you
I'll
later,
talk to you
Adam.
guys soon.
Good having you. Yeah,
if you
guys.
remember-
let you
if
guys
you
talk.
remember-
I'm gonna run the show a few more minutes. Then what I'm gonna do, since everybody seems like it's a busy day, we usually have a lot more. The next time I run stream, it'll probably be at night. But go ahead, guys. We'll run it for a few more minutes.
I was
then I'm
going to say
call it.
before, with Freddie Kitchens. So in 2020, Jason Garrett got COVID. Freddie Kitchens got to run the offense for one game against the Browns, and you actually saw a lot of the aggressiveness. But you also had, if I'm not mistaken, Colt McCoy, who, I mean, he's a backup. He can do what he can. But, I mean, once Freddie Kitchens got to take over as the interim offensive coordinator, he got to have Daniel Jones for one game. And then he got hurt against the Eagles. And then he was literally saddled with Mike Glennon and then Jake Fromm. So it's like, I mean, if Freddie Kitchens, who was this decent coordinator in Cleveland, basically was like saddled with like third tier quarterbacks and didn't really get a fair shake to run an actual offense because the Giants were so saddled with injuries. So it just, I mean, Freddie Kitchens, it was a decent play caller, but didn't really have much with the Giants for those final 6 games.
And his route combinations were better as the games went on. It's just the quarterback play in a team was so bad.
They were so bad. I mean, Mike Glennon was terrible. They were so beaten up on the offensive line. And I mean week 17, week 18, Kenny Golladay is literally alligator arming freaking touchdown catches. I mean, they were so done at that point. It was like awful. And then, I mean, Freddie Kitchens kind of got scapegoated along with the rest of the coaching staff. But I mean, at least now the Giants have competent, aggressiveness. And I mean, you have Brian Dable, who had success in Buffalo. Mike Kafka's coming from Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes. I mean, this is a good start and a good foundation to getting, reversing the course of what we've seen for the last 2 years.
So you're a writer, Doug?
I am a beat writer for USA Today. I write for Giants Wire, and I've been covering the Giants. It's I think my 10th year now covering the Giants.
Wow.
Look at that.
I probably read your stuff all the time.
Look at this.
I'm kind of one of like the beat writers that like people are just figuring out who I am. But I've been around.
Right.
I've been around for a little while. So, but I mean, I like to interact with other fans and talk to people because I was a fan once upon a time ago who still is a football fan, and I like to talk to people. We've been stuck so much inside for the last 2 years. It's just nice to talk to people. That's just the way I look at it. So.
Step outside
Yeah,
and get the
appreciate you
plague.
coming on, Doug. I have other streams with we call it the Blue Scoop. There's many more of us, and I guess it's a day where people are busy today. But when I
It's
have
not
a night stream, you will
it's like
have a nice 30, 40, 50 people in the chat, and I try
yeah,
to get people in and out so we don't have too many at once talking over each other.
sure.
So, but today it's slow. I'm happy you came on. Appreciate it.
I mean, it's also 70 degrees here in New Jersey.
Right? Everybody's
I,
outside.
I'm literally in it's Jersey weather. I'm in a t-shirt, shorts, and sandals today. Like this should not be. This is not February 23rd in New Jersey. I should be in a hoodie, sweatpants, and freezing to death. And instead, I'm turning
Right.
on my air conditioner and opening the windows because it's so fucking cold today.
I worked at Freehold Borough for years down there in New Jersey.
I was once a substitute teacher at Freehold Township, so I know I
Nice.
know that area very well.
Yep.
I guess
We
you're not far
got
from
the
it. It's
same
Staten
roots.
Island, so
You're
Oh,
about 90
Staten
minutes.
Island. Jeez.
You're about 90 minutes away, so
I'm right on the outer bridge, so I'm like one exit. So
everybody
I'm
asks
pretty
me where
much
I'm from.
Jersey.
I mean, literally, I grew up 5 minutes away from the Jersey Shore, where the Jersey Shore house, where we don't fist pump, even though sometimes we do. So I'm from that. I'm from literally from that area. So
Right.
Hey, nothing wrong. A nice day. Throw your arm out the window and give a couple fist bumps going down the highway.
this weather, oh my goodness, I love it. I love this weather. If
I'll
it could
give you
stay
one
like this,
question. Go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I'm just saying, if it could stay like this weather for the rest of like the winter into the spring, I would gladly take it.
Sounds like
It's
Los
gonna
Angeles
change.
is for
It's supposed
you.
to snow Friday, so it's supposed to
You
snow
son of a
Friday. A
gun.
snow and an ice storm. So
Oh my
you
goodness.
better enjoy it today while you can.
The weather's literally going from like 90 to 60 like it saw a state trooper.
Yeah. Well, the draft can't get here soon enough because everybody's going nuts.
We got the combine coming up pretty soon, and then
Next weekend, right?
Yeah, we got the combine, and then right around St. Patty's Day will be the start of free agency, and then before we know it, then the draft will be here. I mean, it's layers, but I mean, with football, it's end of the season, you got the combine, and then you got the start of free agency in the middle of March, and then that goes fast and furious. And then at the end of April, you have the draft, and before we know it, mini camps and football season is back before we know it.
I look forward to the draft.
Got a 2-month dead period after the draft.
Yeah, well, that's the rookie camps and the mini camps and the kind of like the getting to know period for a lot of the new guys and all that stuff. And it's kind of like a dead period, but I mean, it's at the same time, it's like guys are getting their feet wet and accustomed to being in the NFL. And then you get to July at the end of July is when training camp and the preseason really, and that's really when football season starts to like get there.
Oh yes, hopefully we see many brawls this year. Let's see some more brawls. Let's get some competition.
Look, it's August. It's hot. Guys don't like being at training camp to begin with. People's, they get agitated. Of course, fights are going to happen. I mean, look, I'll never forget the one training camp where Brandon Short was giving Jeremy Shockey the most crap during his rookie year. And oh my goodness, you thought a war was going to happen between those two. I mean, it happens. It's football.
There's always one or two people in camp that are just pushing everybody's buttons and going a little too hard.
There's always that one veteran. And that year that when I was in attendance, it was Brandon Short and Jeremy Shockey. And holy crap, if the 50 people didn't stop them, those two would have thrown out real hard.
I feel that's good to have because today these kids have gotten very soft.
Yeah, there's a lot of the like the old, like you hear the stories of hazing and things going a little too far. So, they kind of like push it back a little bit. But I mean, I'm
not even talking about hazing. I don't want any of that. I'm talking about you don't get the 2-a-days anymore. They don't get physical in training camp. They don't wear their gear. Because there's rules for everything. They have to eat at this time. There's water for that.
I know because everything's changed so much. Everything has changed over.
That's all been bargained, though. That's the union stuff right there.
It was 2011 when the Giants won the Super Bowl. If you guys remember, during the draft, the NFL was dealing with a lockout. I mean, a lot of that was discussed and whatnot, and You know, it's a lot of rules have changed for over. The
And I
last
think a
50
lot of these
years.
injuries now are because they don't do
They don't do enough.
Dickie McGee's
They don't
act.
tackle. They
And
don't tackle in August, right?
I mean, if you
Yep.
look at it, look at how many ACL injuries have happened probably over the last 5 years. I mean, they don't build their bodies up to sustain a whole season, and just they don't know how to like prepare themselves, and all of a sudden, boom, knee injury out for the season.
And there's more to that, though. You could, you know, I know we just met. You could look at my channel. I'll send you a video from last winter. No, I'll send you a video from earlier this year. I think it was October, right after that Dallas game. I did a video. You know, a lot of guys know. I did a video on the cleats and the turf are destroying these players' knees. Mainly the turf, man. The league has to do away with turfs.
Well, if you remember week 2, and I think it was last year, the Jets and the 49ers game, look how many injuries MetLife Stadium claimed with all those guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of, you know, with the Giants too, I mean, that day
we lost 4 receivers. What was it, 3 years ago?
Something like that. I think
we did this year too. The Dallas game. We lost our top 4 receivers.
Marshall, Shepard.
Yep, I remember. Honestly, I think
and Bosa spoke about it last week, actually. Bosa, right after Odell got hurt in the Super Bowl, Bosa actually tweeted, talking about the injury he suffered in MetLife. And a lot of players came out last week. A lot of players around the league came around saying that these Black Pebble turfs, which is what I did the video on back in October, are really claiming a lot of these players' ACLs.
Yeah, the MetLife has gotten a lot of complaints for just with the cleats, with the turf. It's claimed a lot of knees have been claimed, unfortunately, because of that stadium and that turf. And
according to Paul Banks, Mara's going to go back to grass, but it might take 2 years.
No, I don't think that's true. I just saw an interview about 3 weeks ago where it was when Dable was hired. Mara interviewed on the side, and a reporter asked him about the fields, and he said, "No, we used to do grass. We ended up it was very expensive. We ended up having to keep redoing it." And he said right then that they're going to keep the field. So I was very disappointed when I heard that.
Yeah.
Also, Bruce Springsteen can show up a couple times a year and play in the friggin' stadium.
Bruce Springsteen could have probably blocked better than some of the linemen we had.
For real.
Yeah.
He's definitely got more endurance than any player on our offensive line.
Minus Thomas. Because, I mean, Andrew Thomas played well.
Thomas
he was
good.
okay. He was good. He was good.
Thomas is good, and unfortunately, Nick Gates got hurt, you know, so.
The only thing with Nick Gates, though, is you save money by cutting him. And as much as I love Gates and I love his work ethic and how hard he has worked to become a center, it's just because of how strapped the Giants are with the salary cap. I think Nick Gates could be a salary cap casualty.
Probably. I'm a Lemieux guy. I'm big on Lemieux. I'd love to see him.
I'd love to see Lemieux get a second chance because I mean he played well. I mean his rookie year he looked good and he went down so early. I mean if you bring him back and he looks, I'm all in favor of Shane Lemieux getting a second chance to start on the line again, and I'd be perfectly okay with it.
Because he only played like half.
Yeah, I remember
these players. We have gotten away from doing that, but with this new regime, you have to get back to developing these kids, and Lemieux is one of them.
Lemieux is one of them. Yeah, no, I mean
he looked a lot better last year.
I mean,
I'll be honest with you. A lot of people are not on the same page with me, but I really don't want to get rid of Hernandez.
Oh, I do. I'm done with him.
I know he's been bad, but I think that if he was coached the right way, I think he still can be something.
I mean, from everything that I've heard and whatnot, I just think that the Giants are kind of just they're not looking to bring him back, and he'll probably get a second chance somewhere else in the league. I think it's the business side of things. I mean, if he's going to look for decent, like some sort of kind of money in a contract, I just think the Giants are looking elsewhere. I mean, he'll probably he'll get something else in the league, and he'll get a chance to start somewhere else. And who knows? Maybe with a different scheme, coaching staff, plus just a different environment in general. Maybe it's just sometimes you just need that fresh start. Will Hernandez
somebody will throw him $4 or $5 million.
Yeah, and I think somebody will see like, hey, you played for a bad team, but yet you didn't quit. Let's put you in this line. We'll coach you this way. And all of a sudden, we're looking at Will Hernandez like, wow, that was the guy we all saw at UTEP who was a second-round pick and looked decent his rookie year.
That's what I'm saying.
To be fair, he had Nate Soldier next to him 3 of the years. this year.
Yeah, he did. And I mean,
Yeah,
Nate
man.
Solder. And I mean, to fairness to Nate Solder, I mean, he dealt with the injuries. He had cancer, and he also
Right.
had his son's illness, which I know is a mental thing. That
Right.
He's
He's a good guy. He's a nice guy.
He's one of the greatest guys you'll ever meet. He'll never make an excuse for his play. Honestly, Nate Solder should have retired after when he opted out for 2020. Honestly, he should have retired because
I
when he
agree.
came back in 2021, he was a step slow. He's doing a new position at right tackle. He was getting beat by Von Miller and
There's
Bosa and
embarrassing
all.
reps. Embarrassing
I mean,
reps.
he was a running joke, and I mean, I felt bad for him because I mean he's trying as hard as he can, but he just was not meant to be. He wasn't an NFL offensive lineman, much less a starter. And here's another thing: the fact that he beat out Matt Pert. I mean, as bad as Solder was, for him to beat out Matt Pert, I mean, that shame on Matt Pert because he played all of 2020.
Well, I think they wanted Pert to be somebody who he isn't. He's a reserved, laid back guy. They wanted him to play with a mean streak, and that's just not who he is.
It's not who he was.
I do think Pert is a better tackle than Nate Solder at this point, but I think it's the little tiny things that Matt Pert can't do that Nate Solder does do, and I think there was a little stubbornness from the coach to not put Pert there. But you saw that when Nate Solder went to left tackle when Andrew Thomas went down, they quickly went to Pert because that was a disaster.
That was a disaster. I mean, when Thomas was out when Thomas was out, the left side was in so much trouble, and you saw it. And hopefully they figure this all out, whether it's in free agency or the draft. I mean, I think they have good, competent people to figure out not only a starting offensive line, but to add depth and to figure out alternative plans. God forbid if anybody gets hurt, because that's the thing that Dave Gettleman didn't do in 2021, and he was so stubborn about it. He's like, because they asked Gettleman about not having depth, especially when Gates and Lemieux went down. He was so like, oh, I think our offensive line is fine. Well, guess what, Dave? That's part of why you were being run out the door after 2021 because you literally had no depth on the offensive line. And that's a big reason why they were 4-13.
Well, they were pass protecting for a good few weeks early on with all them guys, but then they slowly broke down. Teams start to watch tape and what's effective against them, and all of a sudden, every week you got more and more of that stuff getting thrown at you. So It is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So real quick, Doug, before I close down the show with the 5th pick, you have Thibodeau and Equano sitting there. Who are you taking for the Giants?
My gut says Thibodeau. I can't pass.
And I don't think he's going to get to us, but if somehow
I know if Thibodeau is there at 5, unless I get a trade offer that includes somebody else's number 1 pick for next year, my gut is to make the pick, and if Thibodeau's there, I would take him.
Take him.
All right, I take him also. All right, okay.
Fans will look back for years and point to that because he's going to go somewhere and kill it. Fans would just destroy.
Years, as I was going nuts a good 7 months before last year's draft about Parsons. I mean, if you ask anyone, I was probably one of the first. And
I was right there with you, Miz, but I didn't think they'd do it.
We let him slide past us. So,
let's see who we get this year with the 7th pick. Let's see who we get, though. I mean,
I know I wanted Parsons too, but I mean, I can't crap on the fact that we got a number 1 pick.
Right. Well, the book's not out on him. He could do something boneheaded in the next couple of years here.
He is in Dallas. I mean,
and he already made that 9/11 statement he made. He's not the sharpest tool in the shed. Great talent, but I mean, there was things there. And I thought Mara would go, no, I'm going to pass because of his character concerns, even though it was a long time ago.
Sometimes it's good opinion to have a little bit of I don't know how to see what word to use. Just
I already know what you're saying. I agree. You got to be crazy to play this game.
Yeah, a linebacker that has a little street mind in him. We haven't had that in a while.
Maybe we get Randy Gregory. He's a dog. Maybe we sign him this year.
We'll see. That's in the past, and that's another thing. Since we did get a first rounder, also Tony has to step his game up and mature a little. Definitely has to.
I think
because
he'll be all right.
he was a little immature last year.
Well, I mean,
and,
Tony's thing. I mean, his maturity thing is one. I mean, Tony, I think definitely has the talent. He definitely can be, if he's used the right way, could be a 1,000-yard receiver. It's just the injuries kind of scared with the way he was hurt in Florida, and then this year, if he's not on the
Yeah,
field,
but he showed
can't help.
toughness at least. Remember that Dallas game? Like he had cut his hand, he had his ankle wrapped. He was still out there. Like that
he's
impressed
definitely.
me.
He's definitely tough. I mean, I like his talent. I like, he's feisty. I like that. But if you're not healthy and you're not on the field, you don't help the team. That's the bottom line.
I mean, I have
That's
problems
true.
with him because the way he plays, he might always have ankle problems. The way he cuts so many times on one play.
Well, Bradshaw had that
that's
too
a
his
big
whole
problem.
career, but at least he got some years out of him.
I mean, look, we won 2 Super Bowls with Ahmad Bradshaw. He was
That's
the
right.
Giants.
I think the kid's going to be excellent here.
He's got the talent. He's got the skill set. I mean, he could potentially be another Deebo Samuel if he's healthy. It's just the fact he's got to stay on the field. He's got to stay out of trouble. And with an innovative play calling offense, the sky's the limit for him. It's just, for me, it's the health that is the biggest thing with him. He's got to stay healthy.
Yeah, I agree. He's a little too real, though. I mean, he needs to realize the situation he's in, and you're in NFL now, and your life has to change.
Well, I think
he was oblivious to the media. Some of the media sessions were great, though. He was oblivious to what they were asking.
He was a quote machine. He was a literal quote machine for all of us, with what he said. I mean,
it was great.
I think with a new with a coaching staff like that, and with Brian Dable, I think Brian Dable I see as like being just like a guy's guy, just like being real with everybody. I think he sits down with him and be like, look, there's certain things you can say, and I love it, and there's certain things you can't say. And I don't think Joe Judge ever did that with him. I think Brian Dable will do that with him.
Well, I was saying last year, I hope Daniel Jones takes him under his wing. Like, bring him in your life. Daniel Jones seems like a young, stable guy. Bring him in your life. Bring him around your family, girlfriend, or whatever. Take him under your wing and help him. You just need somebody. There's nobody on this team really, because Shepard's. He's kind of whatever. He's got his own problems. He's a little. I don't know.
Well, I know Shepard's going through a divorce, and Shepard, unfortunately, I think is going to get cut regardless because he saved $5 million. And unfortunately, I mean, as much as Sterling Shepard was a great player who played with balls to the wall, hard out all the time, Sterling Shepard can't stay healthy, and by cutting him, you save $5 million. Unfortunately,
yeah, he's gone.
He's gone. But I mean, I know Daniel
gone.
Jones. I think Daniel Jones did what Eli used to do with some of the receivers: just get away, bring some of them with him to Duke, and just kind of just start throwing routes. I could definitely see Daniel Jones inviting Tony and maybe Galladay. He's still here. Bring them to Duke and just let's play catch and get to know each other and let's build this relationship.
Yeah, get him out of his environment. He said,
Yeah, absolutely.
What's going on, Logan? Logan's in the house. Logan, opinion. This is Doug. We have a newcomer on to the streams.
What's going on, man?
Not Logan.
Yes, sir.
What's up, bud?
I'm good, man. How are you?
But it's kind of the dead time of the year. I mean, we had a nice stream. Hopefully, as we get closer, the combines, like you said, next week, and then we're looking ahead to the draft. But I'm not going to change my ways. And if the Giants take a secondary player, I will in the first round. I will be really angry.
Yeah, I'll be fine with one in the third round. That's it.
Yeah, I think we have kids on this team we can develop. We drafted a few corners last year. You got Robinson, Holmes.
Well, Miz, what if the tackle goes 5? Miz, what if a tackle goes 5 at 7? And there's nobody there you really think is quite worthy of that 7 pick. You're still not taking one of them secondary guys if you can't find a trade back.
How can we take a secondary? You're telling me that when there's not going to be one player at 7th that's an edge rusher or an offensive lineman or a linebacker? Because I want
you got Karlaftis.
To go secondary.
Jermaine
Jones, Jabo Karlaftis.
I like Ajabo a lot. I've been looking at him the last 2 nights, and I actually think Ajabo has a chance to be really good with a high ceiling.
Yeah, he's got a ceiling like Thibodeau, but he's gotta be developed properly. I do like his instincts, though. For playing such a short time, he's got better instincts than you might think.
I'm going to make a very controversial statement. I think
All right,
Jermaine
here we
Johnson
go.
has the third highest ceiling of any of these edge rushers in the class.
You're out of your mind. You're out of your mind.
You're on your
I
mind.
like he's aggressive, and I like he's a high effort guy. But if you're trying to say he has a higher ceiling than Jabo, I just don't think you've been paying attention to football the last 20 years the way it is.
Jabo's out of the second tier guys after those top two, Hudson and Thibodeau. I like a Jabo the most. I would definitely.
Me too. But
All
somebody
right,
like
maybe
Jermaine Johnson
it's a
could
little
probably
high,
come in
but I
and
would
get.
take him at 7. I would.
You probably get more production out of Johnson this first year over at Jabo. I wouldn't argue about that. But I mean,
I
if
won't
you're
be
talking
mad with either
4 or
pick.
5
I
years
think they're
from now,
both. I think they're both pretty even right now.
A lot of the
if you take,
people on YouTube like Karlaftis, but I'm bigger on a Jabo, just personally myself.
I like Karlaftis too, and he probably fits Wig's scheme. But yeah, I feel a little bit about Karlaftis like after 10, and that was very nitpicky. You're talking 7 to 10, but
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well,
7,
with
7, I want somebody I can feel like could come in here and has Hall of Fame potential. Like I want somebody to feel that way about. Not somebody like, oh, he could be pretty good. He could be Trey Hendrickson. That's not bad. That's not really what I want with my 7th pick.
Karlaftis is a lot more explosive than a lot of people think. Ever since I watched the Hubs mock draft, I look into Karlaftis a lot more. And Kush is right. That dude's burst off the line is insane.
He is, but he don't commit to his speed rushes, man. Like he always cuts it inside. It's something he needs to stop doing.
Yeah,
because he does have the burst.
Getting outside.
But go watch that Notre Dame game with him, and it's just like, man, you start to question him a little bit.
Yeah. There's a lot of edge rushers that, like, honestly, if I'm being honest, if we were to take Jermaine Johnson, I want to trade back to the 12 to 20 range.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, right middle of the first rounds where I'd feel good about him.
Yeah.
And you got some of the guys like the linebackers because some people love Lloyd, and then
That's
you
true,
have,
man.
And then you have
N'Kobe Dean. He's a queen. He's like the twin of Patrick Queen over there in Baltimore. N'Kobe Dean is the same as that kind of player.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people. There's some rumors the Giants are now interested in Walker, who Bucco has been very high on for the last 2 weeks. Bucco's been telling me Walker,
not at 7.
Walker.
Yeah,
not at 7. You want to trade back?
No, I can see Walker ending up an Eagle somewhere over there, 15, 16.
Maybe. I like
him to kick inside. Who?
Brian Asamoah in the second round.
Oh, the middle linebacker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't scouted him yet. I forgot to get to that.
He's so explosive, man. His speed is insane.
Yeah. He's a little small frame, but he's fast and he hits hard.
He's pretty much a clone of Owusu Koromoa.
I like that Leo Chanel too. I like him in Wisconsin.
Oh yeah,
he's pretty fun to watch. I think he'd do well in a Wink scheme. He's just a downhill guy.
He's pretty much
a hard hitter, man. No. He's much faster, much more of a powerful hitter, I think.
I gotta look into him a little bit more.
Yeah, look into him.
Right from Wyoming.
Yep.
Chad Muma.
Yep, Chad Muma. He'd be an excellent selection.
What would he be? Second, third round?
Fourth.
I think he's moving up, man. I have more and more recognition. Maybe he'll settle back down when the combine comes because I don't think he'll test out of this world. But the guy's pretty good. Like his read and react is just as good as anybody in his draft, and he's decent in coverage. Like the thing is, like you might have to sit him and develop him for a year or two. Like Logan Wilson did before he came in, who's doing pretty good right now in Cincinnati. But you probably gotta learn a little bit. One of those small school guys, it's a learning curve.
Really? Yeah, we'll see what happens. A lot of this stuff we talk about is repetitive stuff, but
it is.
But we got the combines next week, and I was planning with Adam, Logan, and a lot of our other guys that aren't in here today to have a big Blue Scoop show at night. Maybe after the first day or maybe after the second day at night of the combines to have a big stream show with a lot of us. And I think that would be a lot more fun. Maybe at like 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. We'll see what we could do. Get a bunch of guys on. It seems like the guy Doug is taken to us, so we might have another guy here. And I'll put it out on Twitter, so we'll have maybe some new faces joining in the chat. Nice to get
Yeah,
new
come back,
people.
Doug. I respect
Doug
the
was
takes
cool.
you got, man. You're a
That was
knowledgeable
cool. I
guy.
seen him on Twitter the other day. We were talking, so I sent him the stream today. But yeah. Well, we'll call it a show though, because I think we touched on a lot of topics and we're coming up on almost 2 hours here. So look for something next week. I haven't decided. Maybe we'll throw it on Logan or Adam's channel. But we'll plan it. We got some time. Like I said, maybe the middle of the combines, like maybe the second night after 2 days of combine, maybe we could do something on that. Some of the things we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it, guys. Appreciate having you. It's been a good show. Thank you,
Yeah,
Opinion.
appreciate you having me on, Miz. Thank you.
Logan, tomorrow we work on another video like we did the Kayvon video with some music. Maybe I was thinking of Jabbo, but if you want to do someone else, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you like Devin Lloyd? Do him, Miz.
Think about it. Who do you say, Opinion?
Don't you like Devin Lloyd? Do it on him.
Yeah, I do. I like Lloyd. So we could do him, definitely.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of interest for him right now, and there's not a lot of content.
Logan likes
for him.
Karloftis. So.
No, it's fine. I'm available to do anybody, man. I don't care.
All right, fellas, I'm out. Thank you, Miz. Appreciate it. I always like to talk football with you, man. We think a lot of like offensive line.
We talk a lot of football as we get closer. Much more when we get like, let's say, a week before the draft. It could get much better. You know?
Yeah.
So appreciate you guys, everybody. I'll hit you up later, Logan. Have a good night.
See you, Logan.